I was annoyed, then I was amused. Ninninger 23 is what I'm referring to, in that Katsumi shows that starts off the episode with showing that she's mastered two-element combination ninjutsu using her five-element shuriken things, which gets the rest of the cast amazed at her technical capabilities, and yeah, Kasumi is definitely the most competent ninja amongst them. I mean, Yakumo's more of a magic user anyway, so it really doesn't count for ninja, but she's stealthy, she's duplicitous, she knows a variety of techniques, and, she's not the most combat-oriented, which now I think is really Takaharu's domain, but it's actually... I think she's my favorite character thus far with the show, and she's oddly downplayed, but I guess she's good at supporting the rest. So the main plot of the episode is Katsumi trying to get Nagi out of his shell and improving and more reliant on himself, which is good, except you don't really realize that until late, and I mean late in the episode. Initially, it seems like it's a Kasumi-focused episode with how it starts off with them trying to figure out Katsumi's weaknesses, and she reveals it's actually ghosts. Now, this is what annoyed me, because they're fighting yokai, and yokai are essentially malicious spirits or demons, meaning they are ghosts. Yes. This is going to feel like a missed opportunity, but Kamen Rider Ghost is not going to have a crossover with Ninninger, because Ninninger will have not exactly concluded, but it won't be running anymore by the time they get to the next crossover stuff next spring. I mean, Ghost and Drive are having a crossover special at the end of Drive's run, but I mean the Sentai Kamen Rider crossovers. Admittedly, most of them are terrible by just weight of numbers, but I felt that's what my initial thought was in that. There was not going to be a chance to play off of this. Admittedly, my annoyance with it is it's an element of her character that it comes out of nowhere and only comes to the forefront for the episode spotlighting a ghost-themed yokai. And by ghost-themed, I mean the Yuki Onna. It's a ice woman, essentially. And they're usually more seen as malicious spirits than normal demons, from what I remember of when I was kind of researching that kind of thing way back. Apologies if I'm wrong. But, of course, it's revealed that this was Katsumi planning ahead to trick Ariake, Kagami, into sending them a yokai that they would be able to take advantage of, instead of, a random X thing. So they would have the advantage in combat because they know what to expect from it. And with the weather out, she was able to trick it into something that was ice-themed, which would be weaker in the summer heat. This is all excellent Katsumi's part in hindsight. It's just that getting to it is kind of stupid. I'm actually looking back on it more fondly now that I know the ending, but it feels, when it's starting out, it feels like a Katsumi-focused episode is being sidelined for someone that was not meant to star in it. Like I said, Nagi. It's actually a Nagi-focused episode disguised as a Katsumi-focused episode, which is kind of sad, but from the end result, it's getting them further along in their training and character development, because Shishio, the Lion Hao spirit, and actually this is a good in hindsight tip-off to this, that if they were going to stick with this retconned fear of ghosts, then she should have been freaking out around Shishio, because he is a spirit, he's a ghost, he is a non-living incorporeal entity. Non-corporeal entity, apologies. So yeah, I'm actually glad that was just her being a duplicitous ninja. So yeah, it gets Nagi to improve, and admittedly, it should have been something to improve Fuka as well, because, well, as I keep saying about the show, it keeps ragging on Fuka unfairly. So, if it was just down to those two, and they were split up and had to improve on their own, and, they could have gotten a 2-for-1 in on this from that, but at least we got Nagi pushed forward, so we just need to get Fuka to have a spotlight episode where she isn't railed upon by the story, like has been for the entirety of the series. A lot of the imagery in here is stupid. Like, end of the episode, they form up the Hollow Shurikenjin inside of a manifestation the Yuki Onna creates that's a giant snowman. And they did it so it was a surprise attack. Except you could have done the surprise attack from within the attack Yuki Onna was using to create the snowman. Counterattack. It just seemed stupid to me. The other thing was all of the guys dressing up as cliche dead people, like the undead. Zombies are not ghosts. Undead soldier's not ghosts. Nagi, who was dressed up as like the normal Japanese depiction of a spirit, in white flowing robes and white faded face and something with a triangle around his head. I'm remembering this badly. He was the one that seemed to be most on theme for it, and Takaharu was a red pepper. This is not what scares you, Takaharu. You were doing this to scare Katsume, and you already know this is. It felt out of place. It's like, and why were they even trying to scare Katsumi in the first place? It was like a ninja courage test, but when you blindside someone with this kind of stuff, you do the whole haunted house thing, you're not really getting them over the fear, which is the courage test. It's part of why I'm glad it was all ended up being a trick, but I'm also annoyed how it was all a trick, as all of the build-up to this moment is like, they're being awful people, they were intentionally being awful people, and, Kasumi's deception was, there was a purpose to it. They were just being assholes, if you understand where I'm going with it. Because there was no reason to do things like this way. Yes, it's not a courage test if you're, excited by it out of the blue. You need something to motivate you to get over a fear. Like if they were in battle and Kasumi was the only one who could move by being chained, so she had to get past this fear on her own out of faith of the others. Kind of like this whole the Despair Event Horizon Kinji went through a while back in the episode Surfer Maru appeared. That would have fit better, and this just seemed like out of the place silliness. Now, Ninninger is pretty damn silly, but it doesn't make sense narratively or for the characters why they would go out and do this, because it seems rather petty for all involved. Yeah, I think I kept that concise this week. Drive. Now, since I didn't have a vlog last week because I got busy, I couldn't comment on the build-up to this where Bono revealed himself and, tried to ally with them, but Krim was not going to do it at all. And we get kind of... Yeah, that's the short thing. A short synopsis of last week's episode. Bono made himself more apparent to the team, while the Tornado Roidmuth, apologies, tried to kidnap women for this, his own personal evolution, which is passion. I guess, because as revealed in this episode, he copied and imprinted to evolve on someone who was a passionate person, and the climax of that person's passion was to find the right woman to marry him and give them this necklace which perfectly suits them. And of course, at the end of the episode, Tornado thought that would be Kiriko, and so they have to kind of rescue Kiriko by the end of the episode. And this seems like it's been happening a lot with Kiriko lately, in that she's the damsel in distress, and it's becoming quite tiresome. I think she's been kidnapped and put in danger more than Hina Izumi, Koyomi, and... why am I forgetting her name? Mai in Gaim put together in this season, and it's kind of irritating that, this is the woman who is better trained than two of the three Kamen Riders of the series, and the only reason the last one isn't less trained than her is he was specifically made to fight the Roid Nudes, or repurposed to fight the Roid Nudes. Yeah. She keeps getting placed in situations where she's the damsel in distress. It's not a good thing. But, the driver is stolen, and we get a piece of what probably caused the surprise future of Surprise Future, where Krim is evil. See, this is all Bano's machinations to have a body of his own. See, the algorithms, at least this is my interpretation, the algorithms Bano gave Go to finish the shift car, that allows for Type Trideron and Krim to control Chinovsky's body in Type Trideron, is likely based on those codes, so Bano could test a way to regain his own body while retaining his digital essence, essentially best of both worlds, because he can move outside of a cybernetic cage, but he also retains all these super powers that he got from digitizing himself. And, yeah, he is now a driver. The Dark Driver. It's black and yellow, and we finally have KITT vs KARR, or will be soon, when Bano takes the form of Golden Drive, which is just a recolor of Proto Drive. But you know what? It works symbolically. Plus, like I said, KITT vs KARR. I am a huge Knight Rider fan. So, we kind of expected this, but from the Surprise Future details, we expected Dark Drive to take the KARR position in the KITT vs KARR, where Kamen Rider Drive is KITT, the Knight Industries 2000, and the Knight Automated Roving Robots. It has been years since I watched Knight Rider, and I still remember that, even though KARR only appeared in 2 episodes of that show. But they were really good episodes, in my opinion. When Bano does this, I think I was getting into that, he implants a chip or otherwise damages the programming that sustains Krim's consciousness, which is likely what made him go evil. And as they're tying it into all of these preview details for Surprise Future, they've got minutes-long prologue bits for Surprise Future, and we've had Future Krim and Dark Drive make brief cameos in the ends of episodes recently. It's tying the movie into canon not quite, a hell of a lot stronger than most of the Kamen Rider movies we have had to date. Now, admittedly, some of them have very easy to insert continuity, but this is the strongest it's been in the entirety of the franchise's run. The best ones I can say thus far is double integrated Double Forever, the A to Z, the Gaia Memories. I'm forgetting the full title of the movie, but their starring movie, they inserted it retroactively in that the episode after its movie was supposed to have occurred. In the movie, the city takes his pride and joy is broken, and in the episode following when it would occur, the giant fan is being repaired. It's not a fan. It's like well, yeah, it is a fan. It's fan blades, but it doesn't project wind. It captures wind, and because the city is Futo, it's named after. I'm resting. Forza's movies didn't exactly allude to a single point, but there was cross-movie and cross-series continuity. The movies inserted their own points in... Not points. One movie carried over to events in the series, but weren't exactly alluded to it. And then the first movie was canon with the second one. They actually brought it up as a plot point. And then the next crossover movie Forwards was in made that movie relevant to it. So again, this seems to be a common trait of... Now I'm forgetting his name. I'm terrible with names. You all know this. But he wrote Double, he wrote Force, he's writing Drive. So this seems to be a trait, and it's something I really appreciate. I'm a big proponent of keeping consistent continuity. So Gaim, as discussed before, had a one-episode lead-in special to it to position it correctly in continuity. It was not a particularly good episode. It was entertaining, but movie, it's enjoyable, but stunned. But I'm glad. Kind of the strength of this specific one is Go's breakdown at the revelation that his father is a magnificent bastard. Because while feeling betrayed, Hart comes and talks to them and explains that, yeah, the rest of the Roid Nudes are pretty much irredeemably evil. It is not their fault. Which, it's something we saw before with the Roid Nude that imprinted on Kyo. And, how he found a benign pursuit in life. And it's revealed that Hart was the first fully operational Roidmude, and that Hart's human form was based on a investor into Bono's research that turned him down, and essentially created the whole chameleon thing so he could take out his aggression in torturing Hart. So while the others are motivated by selfish, negative, conceited whims, Hart is motivated by the desire to protect his own people from the monsters of humanity that were like Bono. And wow, this makes so much sense in context. I think there should have been a other way around this, like through the resetting, like through Chase's original resettings. They were mainly doing against Roid Nudes that were too flashy, and their plans were to grasp this evolution were suspect and damaged. So it was like, keeping them from going too far, which I feel makes a lot of sense. But then you look at the plans of the other Roid Nudes and compare Hart to them. There is a major divergence in their actions that, kind of think of it now, makes a lot of sense in why he's not seeking to outright eliminate Shinosuke. It's like building this understanding, and that's what caused his evolution, his joy overflowing, and it's why it's so far the only positive expression of potential. And it makes you wonder what would have happened had more of the Roid Nudes been able to grasp their own evolutions with more positive emotions that might have not made this such a one-sided conflict. You know, and with the whole Roid mutes are harming people, so they need to be stopped versus against the common riders, and it's coming too late in the series, but hey, this is episode 40 where we're getting this, and part of the problems with the early parts of the series was you really weren't getting good exposition about the enemies, and while it's eventually gotten to, it's not gotten to at a good rate. What would have happened if we learned this 10 episodes ago? When we were first getting Frieza's details on emotional states, embodying specific emotional concepts being key to further evolution, reaching the pinnacle of that. Because before that, it was inconsistent what specific thing they were taking from the humans. Sometimes it was an attribute, sometimes it was a fulfillment of a passion, and it's good we know the rules now so we can look back on this stuff, but the point's gotten away from me. And it does explain why Hart is so sociable, I guess. Because he understands they're not bad people. They're just doing their duty, and I feel like I'm repeating myself. It's kind of why I didn't record exactly do something last week. I wanted to see how this developed. That I was really busy. And it's sad we're on the home stretch, because now Hart's kind of an interesting character where before he was pretty flat. So I wonder what this would do to influence the promised number and how they're going to fulfill it. If Hart's actions in murdering both Bono and Krim were in the perception of self-defense. So yeah, their entire revolution has taken on a whole different context, and I'm liking it. Go had some good moments after he kind of got over his ennui, in that he wasn't, like, avenging the father that was murdered by the Roid Mutes. No, he was doing this in the name of a man who actually caused all of this intentionally. He was a mad scientist. He is a mad scientist that used him, and so it's Go finally realizing he's no longer being focusing on the destruction aspect of a common rider. He's finally grown to realize that there are all types of bad people, not just monsters. There are people that are monsters, and his father's one of them. So he takes up the duty of a true common rider of protecting people from evil, no matter what that evil might be. And he will take that weight of battling against his father onto himself, and it's a really good moment. And with Go's inconsistent character development, it was appreciated, especially with him kind of re-cementing the bonds of family and camaraderie that had been strained for quite some time with their divergences in ideals. So it was a good moment for him. It was a good moment for Kiriko and Shinosuke to finally reconnect with him and kind of embrace the whole family, though not really family, bonds there. And I feel it's also teasing at the potential shipping of Kiriko and Shinosuke. But it's also a good moment for Chase, in that he's experiencing all these sides to human development that I don't think the Roid Mutes, with their kind of theft and possession of all of that, have really been able to grasp on their own. So he's like passively and interactively learning all of this versus dynamic stealing in a specific state. So we already know there are going to be, the promised number is 4, and we already know that Medic is going to be the third one to achieve her super evolution. So here's my question. What if the fourth is going to be Chase? Yeah. That's my question, and because he's been an important part of the show throughout, and what would happen if there's a schism in the promised number on what they should do upon achieving that number? I have no idea what they're going to do when they get the fort. Are they going to conquer the world? Are they going to destroy it? Are they going to go ahead and do the second global freeze, this one of a more permanent nature? We're kind of not really informed on what they're going to be doing, as what the promised number is going to result in. Is this well, we know it doesn't produce more Roid Mutes, because Heart and Medic already said in 2 episodes ago that they don't know how to reproduce cores to produce more Roid Mutes. Numberless Roid Mutes. Obviously, Krim knows how to because of Surprise Future, but I think that would be an interesting twist. That goes unintentional. Well, okay, it was intentional alienation of him actually helped to continue a schism, so we might be getting something similar to what happened in Kamen Rider Blade, where the main secondary rider, everybody considers him the secondary rider, Chalice, was the Joker Undead in that series, and the two endings, of course, one being he was sealed with the rest, to the lamentation of the rest, and the second, the protagonist Kamen Rider turned himself into a monster so they could stalemate out the entire battle fight where all the undead were coming back. So it would be, they're not, what's the phrase? They're not really doing what Blade did with it, but it's kind of a similar route with his, okay, admittedly he didn't start out as an enemy, but he did become an enemy for a short time when he lost his human card that allowed him to retain humanity and suppress the Joker. But it'd be an interesting twist if that'd be how the series ends. Admittedly, it would be doing, once again, the somebody dies but not really at the end of the show thing that's been a recurring thing since, technically, Decade. Most people count Double as really starting that. And then they're not really, because they're revived in some form. Eminently, Gaim didn't exactly do that straight, but as it was Mai that died, but not really. I had a point here and I lost it again. But yeah, that's my theory on how this is going to develop near the end. Because then you have the promised number and Bono, and Bono is helping them with the promised number, but they hate, Heart hates Bono, whereas, that might explain why Bono was never very active while in the care of the Roid Mutes, because Brain knew what he had and how it would have angered Heart to know that Bono was right there and he didn't destroy him, I guess. But yeah, Golden Drive next week. I'll be sure to watch that. Garo. It's the Assault on the Fortress. Yeah, this episode is mainly fight scenes as the 4, then 5, because Watchdog Ryume joins them mid-episode, fighting up to the tower and removing the barrier, sealing it, while fighting tons and tons of horrors. This is the action. Well, every episode has action, but this is the really action-heavy one to to have the storming the fortress episode, and it's really good for the character dynamics and their mutual, not mutual, how, even though they've been pushed together, they've not been an allied force so far. This is really where all of them have first come together in a significant manner, such as this, and how they play off of each other in combat and character-wise, because Daigo's been otherwise isolated from the rest, aside from his 2 previous appearances, 3 if you count last episode, whereas in this episode, he fits so perfectly into the ensemble of the rest that you'd forget he wasn't around for the building of all of that. So it works pretty well, and there's a lot of varied ways they fight, from just straight up swords and magic blasts to subversive attacks to magic bombs that in one strike seal or banish horrors back to the horror realm. That's and they don't even do it in a way that makes it so that they're constantly badass cool guys don't look at explosions. There's faltering moments. There's moments that make them show they're human, but just really good at their jobs. Like Gold, when he sets off the bomb that sucks all these horrors into the horror realm, triggers it too late for him to get free, and has Rian have to tug him out, but it's not due to his incompetence. It's not showing him as incapable, as he pretty expertly said it. He just was unfamiliar with the device, so he couldn't time it correctly. And there's stuff like that all throughout the episode. Like, as they fight another horror in kind of a pocket dimension, since Daigo hasn't been around them, it's like they expect some kind of heavy breathing noise is coming from him, since he's the really old one compared to the rest of them. It's like a little kid, and admittedly it was Gold who said the sounds like we need to stop breathing heavily, and since Daigo is the old man of the group, it's like the junior senior banter that was really, really good. It was, of course, a giant horror. And then there's Ryume. Now, the Watchdogs so far have not exactly been good about assisting in battle, aside from giving orders. I can, of course, cite Gulm from the first series, where Carrier Bearer and Ross aged significantly fast outside of the containment rooms for them, that they needed to combine and possess someone else's body, and yet Ryume's intact. So there must be special circumstances where they are allowed to leave their shrines or citadels where they give their orders, and this is apparently one of them. Or, there's some type of fortification magic necessary, and she is very, very powerful, and it would not surprise me if the Watchdogs were, in fact, at one point Makai priests that survived long enough to become very, very powerful. And, this is their retirement, guiding and guiding and organizing the forces of the Makai Knights and priests. So it makes sense to keep them in stable condition if such people are in need of the backup in special circumstances, and this just happened to be one of them. And so it's showing them as very good at their jobs, very competent, very able warriors, and so it makes it all the more impactful when Jinga and Amelie, the bad guys, Masahiro Nui especially, can still kick their asses. It's not weakening the power of... See, when you have a villain, a very super competent villain who loses to idiots, it cheapens the value of their villainy. as they're, they do all this clever stuff, these maniacal machinations, and they're beaten by kids in short pants. It's very, very irritating to be a fan of this kind of media and have that constantly occur. It's one of the things that drove me crazy about Tokuger, in that the kids who kept winning should not have won. It was Deus Ex Machina out of its ass. And here we have the exact opposite. You love the villains because they're super competent, and they're fighting super competent people that they're still staying one step ahead of despite all of that. And yes, all of the yes. And yeah, they managed to get to Radam, but because they're still outclassed by these two, Jinga managed to get away with Radam and also Rian, who he had pinned in the scuffle to keep them from attacking or counterattacking Amelie, who had sprouted spider limbs from her back and had been bashing everybody there. We saw an interesting thing concerning Jinga's Makai Knight armor, that it was affected by this thing from a mirror, and it was alluded to in a previous episode as well that this might be a key to his power. But the second the mirror went out of Amelie's hands, Jinga lost his armor. So maybe there's something similar to Kiba going on here. And I've thought that for some time, considering he's the only other Dark Makai Knight I know of in this franchise where his armor had kind of special properties like that, except this is different because it's so much more powerful. So maybe that mirror has something to do with them going to darkness, because I just watched Garo Red Requiem, where they had the villain be Karma, a apostle horror that spent her entire existence behind a mirror. The mirror was her means of abducting prey. So I'm curious if there's consistent lore there in what's with that mirror. Maybe it's tying to why they went rogue or whatnot, and brainwashed by the darkness, and But yeah, they get away. It's all done in a very competent, very pleasantly presented manner. All of the stunt work is beautiful. None of the CGI hangs. If you want to watch an episode of Garo, watch Garo Goldstorm Show episode 16. This is definitely your jumping on point for this. And I actually managed to be concise this time. Updates. Yeah, I heard about the actor who played Yuji Kiba dying. I'll try and do something in the FIZE videos that I'll be preparing to work on later this month. I like FIZE, so going back to it from this part, the parts I've seen should probably not be a tedious exercise like it's been with some of these. Still got to get through some of the stuff I have prepared for editing and whatnot. I have a few things to write, and progress is being made on the re-uploads. I just put Kuga back up on my Daily Motion page. I've also think I've got it formatted correctly for YouTube distribution, and YouTube distribution will be continuing for quite some time. I finally started it. I intend to keep going at it in a way that won't get me content ID'd and my account broken. Again, I'm going through old videos to check for stuff that might flag it. Yes. So yeah, that's this week. I will see you all next week.